Action live.
All right.
All right, welcome everyone. Once again, this is another interview of the virtual LA WhipCon. And as I've said on some of the interviews before, if you've watched those, that this is to fill that gap of the camaraderie and the friendship and just hanging out with fellow whip makers. And I'm hoping as you guys see these lives, you can either participate with us or watch it after the fact and enjoy the fun here. So today I am joined by none other than Nick Schrader, who some of you may have
Hello.
heard of once or twice out there in the whip world. It's small, small YouTube channel. No one's probably ever watched it, but no, the largest one out there, over 1 million views on
I
one of your videos. My goodness
still can't
gracious,
believe it.
and
It's been a shock.
rocking and rolling every day. But it was the video that got me started too. So thank you for
Oh,
that,
I'm
sir.
so glad it's affected so many people. It started off with something so just kind of I found this thing that I thought was cool, and I couldn't really find a lot of videos about it
Hmm.
online. So I thought, man, if this is working for me, I want to share it. I want to see how many people can uh, just kind of latch onto this skill and just. I
Yeah,
always like those obscure little crafts and arts and stuff like that. Just
sure.
I think it's one of those things where if more people could try it, and this applies to whip making, but also whip cracking. I think you see people's faces just light up when they finally get that timing right when they crack a whip,
Yes.
and I think that's what it's all about. That's really why I wanted to start this YouTube channel. And of course, I can't lie. When I saw the views coming in, I was like, "Well, this is pretty awesome. I want to keep doing that." So there was an element to that as
Absolutely.
well. But yeah, I'm just really grateful that so many people have found the videos to be so inspiring and got them ultimately into a new hobby they
Right.
never thought
And
they'd
I
be into.
think that's done what I'm wanting to do with these little interviews too, is it's helping bring our community together. I mean, you are
Hmm.
growing the community, which is what's super awesome. But also bringing the community together with
Yeah.
this common interest. I mean, I was talking to several whip makers and whip crackers over the last few days, and it's interesting how there's this interweave for some people more than others, granted, and it's not 100% the case, but there's interweave between
Sure.
making whips and cracking whips. So Adam talks about that regularly, how when he's trying to do something specific, he knows to go and make a whip a different way.
Hmm.
And videos like yours allow people to that have been just cracking whips to start getting back into the
Sure.
making side of it, for example, which is
Yeah.
really fun. And hey, I just want to give a shout out. We've got a couple people joined us. Keith
All right.
Smith. Hey, Keith.
What's up, Keith?
Isaac Eliason and Alyssa Myris. Hello, guys. But
Welcome.
yeah, I've got a couple topics that I wanted to talk about. Of course, this is the
Hmm.
virtual cracking competition. So obviously, the hangout part of that or the whip making is hard to do virtually, but the
Absolutely.
cracking is is something that was more effectively done. Well, what do you think about that? The cracking part of this. Have you watched some of the videos?
I have. I did my best to watch just about all of them. There are a
Wow.
few that I kind of lost in the conversation thread, but yeah, it's some of the ones that really stood out to me. Of course,
Oh
Todd
yes.
Rex,
I mean,
Danny
our first
Shaw.
place.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just see these guys cracking these whips, and it's one of those things where like I never really I started off loving to crack whips. That was my thing when I first got into it, but kind of the whole whip making is what took over for me. So as much as I appreciate whip cracking, double stuff, it's incredible. I think most of my passion is more focused on the making at this point,
Hmm.
but it's just so awesome to see these guys, doing this and putting this much work into these routines and stuff. It's incredible.
It really is. And the same, I could ask you the same question I asked them. But when you're making a routine, do you have a process? Do you go through it in detail and memorize it, or are you more like let's see. So Justin was saying he's super detailed.
Hmm.
Keith was saying just goes with his gut. Danny kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
So when you have a work on a routine for the cracking side of things,
Mhm.
what's your plan there? How do you attack that?
Honestly, there's a few cracks that I feel like I've kind of gotten down, like a forward flick, a volley. I can do that fairly well. this is talking about, single-handed whip cracking.
Hmm.
If we're talking two-handed whips, I just try to go until they get tangled, which they inevitably will, and then I have a jump rope.
Right.
Yeah, but Chris, I don't really have I don't have a mindset routine each time I go out, and like if I'm live in
Hmm.
LA doing entering one of these competitions, and of course the nerves are going. I don't really expect to win up against guys like Danny Shaw. It's just for fun, really. But I don't really plan it out. I just kind of go and just whatever kind of comes into my mind. I'll try this. I'll pause for a minute and maybe do a volley, so I can maybe process and think about the next possible
Sure.
addition to my routine. So there's really, I can't say there's an exact um, plan, I guess, before I go out and do whip
And that's
cracking,
fair.
if that answers the question.
Like I said, there's the whole range of people out there depending on how you attack it. And I mean, this year, I mean, this format kind of lends toward people doing multiple takes. I mean, about
Hmm.
video production,
Yeah,
right? And that's going to be one
absolutely.
of my questions here in a minute
Sure.
about that. But like Isaac, or rather Justin was saying that, this is the best 1 minute of whip cracking that he
Yeah.
can do. And he's managed to edit it together, and then this is the best of that he's got.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun with that. Have you seen that? Do you feel like that's been brought out in this, or is it not always the case?
I feel like that is absolutely true. I think there is also more challenge though, because you kind of have that thought in the back of your head that, hey, I can press the red button as many times as I want. I can, it kind of, if somebody is, a perfectionist, or they're trying to get every single thing perfect, like you could just keep going and going and going. Whereas if you're doing this live, that's your shot. You got to commit to that routine in that moment.
Right.
But at the same time, of course, I think that there are a lot of great benefits to being able to record a video and submit it. As others have discussed, I think um, Johnny was talking about it. It opens it up to the world, really. That not everybody can get a plane ticket
That's
to the
true.
U.S. and show up and participate. So it just kind of, it levels the playing ground a little bit. Um,
Right.
but it's been great.
But what it doesn't do is it doesn't do the whip making side of things very well. Um,
Not at all. Not at all.
not
Yeah.
so. What is it that we can do to help fill that gap? And is what I've been asking myself,
Yeah.
which is part of why I'm talking to you, to be honest,
Sure.
is to bring some of your knowledge and all out to the community, and
Yeah.
to Evan and to
Hmm.
Johnny and other whip makers. Um, so I guess the question is what can we do virtually? Is there
Hmm.
any website online that has lots of videos that you could watch? No.
Well, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a good. Sorry.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was
I'm
going
having a
to
little
say,
lag, so it's a little weird.
oh, it's all good. I think a combination of detailed pictures, uh, talking about a whip making competition online. I think detailed images, but I was also kind of thinking about the cracking perspective, because I remember you were discussing in a few of the other interviews you did. There's really nothing. There's no substitute for holding that whip and throwing it
Mhm.
yourself as a judge. You know, Paul Nolan, Peter Thorndike, they were able to feel these whips. They were able to actually crack them, see the rollouts and stuff. So I think really the only thing that we could do to as closely possibly replicate that would be maybe have a series of different cracks that each one of these whips needs to go through.
Mm.
And I'm not talking about, four corners or anything crazy like that, but perhaps a 90-degree angle of a forward crack, a cattleman's crack, maybe an overhead crack. Just maybe run
Sure.
each whip through a different set of cracks. But, I'm not sure,
Mm.
because that kind of, the whip, a good whip cracker can make a whip that's not very good look like it's cracking well. So I mean, that kind of
That's
comes
true.
with some problems in and of itself. So,
Right.
but man, I don't know. That's a really good question.
I think the competition side of it would be super hard.
Hmm.
Um, but the knowledge exchange, the maybe some of the demos and other tutorials that people had. I know Peter had his little his thing that they made or at least a belly of a whip and all.
Hmm.
But you know, I mean, you've got your videos online, and we can talk. So what is it that we can do to help fill people in? And I don't have the answer to that, and this is just kind
Hmm.
of an open question I've been throwing
Yeah.
around and trying to figure out. One of them that definitely I think goes into your expertise is something that everyone has had to deal with, and that is how to make their video look decent.
Hmm.
Um, if you've watched them, there's obviously the whole gamut of there's what it looks like could be a Hollywood movie as well. Our performance winner. I mean, that was just stunning. Um, but then there's people out of focus, and then there's people out of frame, and
Yeah.
so a lot of the audio is not great. Do you have any suggestions for people out there, or equipment you want to hold up and show off, or
I mean, yeah, I could. Let me go grab. It's not with me, or I could
either way,
discuss it. Yeah, I
either way,
use
man.
yeah I use DSLR cameras. I started with it was a Canon T3i. So
Okay,
some of my earlier videos, you would see a lot of the footage. I used that camera, and it was a cheaper entry level camera. But really, the biggest suggestion I have is to, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say, cell phones do good video nowadays, especially with the way technology has gone. But get yourself
yeah,
a good digital camera that has detachable lenses, because those lenses allow you to do things that cell phones can't do. So if you're looking to get like cinematic shots, that's my number one advice. And you don't have to spend
okay,
$1,000. Just get something that's 600 bucks, $500. You can get one used even. Um, Something with interchangeable lenses just gives you so much more
right,
flexibility and what we call depth of field, where the background is blurred and
sure,
the foreground is not. So if you want your videos to have that look, I'd go that route. That's something that you really can't achieve with most cell phones. I think iPhone might be doing something with their newest line of phones, but and just educate yourself. There are so many tutorials on YouTube about filming
yeah,
things and about settings of your camera and different angles. So get a decent camera, watch
lighting,
some reviews, yeah, lighting as well. So just learn some stuff and get a decent camera, watch reviews of what filmmakers recommend. So that's my
hmm.
biggest advice. Just practice. Practice
Oh,
is another huge thing.
okay,
It's one thing. Yeah.
hmm. No, that's really interesting, and I'm rolling back through some of the. I do all my videos with my phone, and I'm not super happy
Mhm.
with them, and setting up the tripod and figuring out ways to balance all this, and someone
Right.
calling me in the middle of a shot, those are all
Yeah.
frustrating.
I used to
Um,
record audio with my phone, and that would happen. I think I left it in a few of my videos over the past couple of years. It's just an outtake, but yeah.
right. I mean, that's really, really important. So you're talking about different lenses. So I've seen the lenses that you can twist, and there's different focal lengths. It'll,
Hmm.
they call them zoom or whatever. But I
Yeah.
mean, for different focal lengths, I've seen people just swear by getting a
Hmm.
static 50 mil and just having it, for set so that you move to the right spot, and then you have the perfect
Hmm.
thing. You have any suggestions for getting people started on that sort of stuff, or even other YouTube channels for
Sure.
that learning?
Sure. Well, a prime lens, it just has one focal length. So, like you
Hmm.
said, you have to be the one. If you want to zoom in, you got to physically move towards your subject. So those lenses are nice. The advantage you get is that you can get more light into the camera. It has a lower f number, if that makes sense.
Right.
The iris opens up more. There's shorter, less distance. So that's something that just gives you an overall clearer image. A zoom lens has more glass. You don't get quite the benefit that you do, um, with the prime lens. But if you can get something with a decent range on it, like I have a Sony 18 to 105, I believe it is, and it covers quite a range. The quality is still good, and I think for something that's it's you can get one of these lenses for 350, maybe $400, even cheaper used.
Mhm.
Um, but you don't have to go the route of a prime lens. It gives you that little edge, but you can still make a zoom lens look really great.
I mean, for
Um,
a beginner, maybe that would be better to get them different
Yeah,
different zooms that they need for what their shot is going to be.
sure.
So, like, if we were to just kind of keep diving into more specifics
Hmm.
here, and if you aren't comfortable, certainly
Oh,
we
no,
can
no.
move on. But so some of the videos are amazing just because the whip cracking was so good.
Hmm.
Like Todd Rex, I mean, he had a nice wide angle shot. He was rolling all over the place and running him around, so he kind of
Yeah,
needed that room.
absolutely.
Got a nice video of the guy walking behind
Hmm.
him, you know,
Yeah, yeah, I love
that never turned his head. That's
that.
so funny. I mean,
Yeah,
even in my video, my neighbor took the trash out. Just big old sack of
yeah.
garbage just out her front door right behind me during my video. So maybe I should have had a little shallower depth of field if it would have been blurry. But then again, I don't know. I kind of like seeing
I
that now.
know. I was gonna
Well,
say that kind of adds, like it can add in its own way. If you're shooting something and something funny happens like that in the background, like that can kind of replace the benefit, I guess you could say, of having that film looking depth of field. Like it just adds character to the video. So it really kind of depends on the
mhm.
video, the situation. Um, a guy walking behind you while you're cracking whips, I think it just adds humor to it, even if it's just this crazy video of somebody doing all these crazy stunts with a pair of whips. Todd Rex's video, this guy strolls past. I think that adds in another way. um, so
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Did you see any that you saw that you had with your filmmaker's eye, thinking, I think I would have changed that, or we should have tweaked it? And you don't have to call anybody out specifically, but when you're looking at people just filming standing there just
Hmm.
going nuts with their whips, is there recommendations? I mean, just because a
Uh,
lot of us just cell phone pictures, but
yeah, I guess maybe the one thing that I think is really important when you're doing something very detailed is, and everybody has their different ways of shooting things, but I think it's important to have a pretty blank background behind the whip action, because sometimes those really sophisticated tricks and spins and stuff, or catching and what have you, can be lost in things behind you. Like if I don't know, if I'm standing in front of a building or something and I have a whole bunch of things behind me, like maybe a fence or things that kind of distract from what's
mhm,
going on in the foreground. I think having a more of a blank background might be beneficial, just so maybe the judges can see better of what the whip is doing. And it can sometimes get lost in a background, a busy background of a certain set or a place that you're cracking the whip. So
right,
that's really my only. I think it would just be helpful maybe for the judges. It just
yeah.
make it easier to see what's going on.
I mean,
But
even
that's really all.
on your YouTube videos, I've seen you change some angles so there's a hill,
Mhm.
or it seems like there's a hill near your house, so that like more than two-thirds of the screen is grass from the angle that you're doing it, and
Yeah,
it does show off the whip quite a bit better. Was that
yeah,
intentional?
yeah. I really. It was, yeah. I try to get. I'm a landscape photographer. I do a lot of weather and storm chasing and stuff like that. So the layout is really important to me. Like the more natural lighting and the more, I guess, grass, hillsides and stuff, the better. I try to frame a video uh, in a way that it looks good, even if there's no subject there. Like it's just a nice frame. It's a nice looking, uh, good scenery and what have you. And if I step into it and crack a whip a little bit, maybe it'll add to it. So I try to choose a good spot first and then kind of walk into it, if that makes sense.
It really does, and I think that if there's one takeaway people have, it might be a single thing that you could underline. It's pick a good spot without you, and then it'll be
Hmm.
better with you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's it.
Exactly. No, that's some wisdom there. And then all this other film equipment, you can, as you're setting it up, you can make it work right for that location, perhaps.
Hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do if it's a wide landscape, go with a wide lens. If you're looking for more of a
Right.
compressed look, I recently did a video where I was working on a whip in an alley, and the purpose of the video was just to show that you could work on a whip anywhere with a little folding stand. I think the lens I used in that video, it was a zoom lens, a telephoto. So I just wanted to get that compressed look, like here's this long alley. So yeah, it
Sure.
definitely does kind of your environment will sort of dictate in a way what
Hmm.
lenses you use. And I'd be happy to, in the description, just list some of the gear I use if you want, Chris.
Yeah,
There's a few
that would
different.
that would
I can put that in
yeah,
afterwards if you want.
that'd be really awesome. I'll make a note there. So, what are your thoughts on having a cameraman? Because that certainly seems to be a challenge for our particular hobby.
Yeah,
Maybe because we're doing so many takes and we're out there for so long, so many days in a row.
right. Yeah. Um, my first thought about it is I've had a few people film. My brother, my friend Ben. We just did a little collaboration video. But some of the shots that are required to do a tutorial, they're just so grueling. Like you're sitting there and you're filming. It's like I kind of part of me doesn't want to put someone else through that. I guess it's just kind of one of those things like, well, I have to do it if it's my idea to do this whole video. I don't want to drag somebody into it. So, and that's not true at all. Like I have
Fair enough.
friends who would absolutely be willing to do that, and they've shown that. Um, but it can certainly add it can add a lot of variations if you do have a camera following your movements. If you're cracking whips, it just adds more interesting elements to it. So I'm all for
Hmm.
it.
Okay.
I think it's good to have somebody, maybe an even amount of both. Um, so
Sure.
yeah,
I think some of the with the videos in the competition specifically, having no cuts was probably important for your freestyle routine, for example.
yeah,
So
right, exactly, yeah,
I don't know how effective it would have been to have someone running around you in circles with the camera while you're trying to do the four corners. But
exactly. Yeah, there are
but
absolutely some cracks where just require a dead forward shot for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah, and I was a bad boy this year, man. I was caught up with orders and finishing some videos. I didn't enter any of these competitions. If people were wondering, like, "Where's your videos?" Like, I didn't do it. I'm a bad boy. I wish I would have done it, but
All
I
right.
didn't. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
been
but
so
we
awesome to
can still
see.
hang out and talk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this has been great, and this is so awesome what you're doing, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
This
that.
is what brings the whip community together. You know, it's one thing to do a tutorial or videos, but the engagement is what's so important. I think you're doing an awesome job of this. This has been really this whole thing you're doing is fun.
Well, thank you. And that's
I think it's good. Yeah.
that actually is what I wanted to. I won one of the raffles, which is amazing. But that's only secondary. What I wanted to get out of it is this sort of thing,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
to just
Yeah.
meet with the community and get to know everybody else. So
Yeah.
it's really we're getting some hearts from somebody. Thank you for that. I guess
All
they agree.
right.
I
Good
would keep
deal.
suggest with our video making, we should add more dinosaurs. Um,
We could do that. We could do that. I've got a
he
bunch
has
of
a
little toy dinosaurs
yes.
in a bag in the other room.
Have you watched many of his videos? My goodness,
I've seen
if you
yeah,
haven't,
the
you need to check.
Instagram ones. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
They're
so
so
funny.
much fun.
He, yes, yes. Ah, let's see. Um, I guess those are the main questions I want to talk to you about. If there's any questions from the chat room, whatever, we can talk about this. If you have any questions for me, Nick, I would be happy to
Sure.
talk about it. I certainly don't have the experience that you do. I've and very much enjoyed your podcast and all your videos, and I've
Well,
watched
thank you.
the super long ones many times. I
Well, I really appreciate it.
put a lot
Yeah.
of views into your
Thank you
channel.
so much.
So thank you. And almost all of these back there have at least most of your influence on them.
Oh,
So
that's great. I really like the yellow and that looks like a green one behind you there.
it's blue. It's blue.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
blue.
yellow and
Okay.
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's sharp.
it's one of them. I fused it at the beginning so that it was half and half, and then at
That's
the end
cool.
it's 4 strand and it's two of each. So yeah, it
I
really
love
came
it.
out nice. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
absolutely.
Let's see. Keith says thank you. That's awesome. But yeah, I was just going over your new one with all the new steps you've got with the new ways you've got of binding, I guess, if you would say there
Yeah,
might be the changes.
absolutely. Yeah,
Would you say
there's
that
one.
might be? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to mention this to anybody who's a whip maker and watching this. I recently started using this is lacing tape, guys, and it's good stuff. I pretty much replaced all of the artificial sinew with this, and it's a polyester material, but there's no stretch to it whatsoever. So, and you said binding, and it reminded me of that. So,
Yeah.
lacing tape is the name of that stuff. So check that out, guys.
So using my artificial you over here. So
And I'll still use it to fill in things, but yeah, check it out.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I mean, that was one of the things that everyone said that used your award-winning whip from last year
Oh, that's right.
was
Yeah.
that was one of the main main things that had you stand apart from the other top competitors, that they all were pristine to look at, that they could find nothing wrong with them.
Mhm.
But when they used yours, the rollout, the flow, the energy transfer, second to none.
Oh.
So you're doing something right.
I'm very honored. I'm very. It's such an honor to hear that.
Oh,
Feeling a bit of shock from that, to be
we're
honest with
having some
you.
energy.
It's I actually.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Can you hear
yeah.
me?
It's cut out for
Oh,
about 10 seconds there.
okay.
Okay, and I think we're
All back. Oh,
back.
okay. Um, what I was saying was it's just still kind of a shock and such an honor to hear that from Paul Nolan and Peter Thorndike. I'm still like, I have to sometimes look up that I put it in a little shadow box here, um, just to kind of remind myself when the self doubt sneaks in, like, hey, you did that though. It just kind of helps me power through some
It's
things from
beautiful.
time to time. And thank you so much.
Do you feel like it's that those the I don't want to say rigid because that has two terms with that what we do, but how strict you are with you do down and up 3 times on each belly. You make sure it goes past each time, that you're always focused on that taper. Or is that the magic?
I think, yeah, that is a huge part of it. Just making sure that I don't end binding where the previous binding ended. I make sure everything is overlapped. So there's never anything like this going on to where I think that's where creases tend to form a lot.
Right.
As far as going down and back, 3 times, I don't think it's necessarily, that's not the most important thing. I think it's just being conscious of where you're wrapping and just
Okay.
letting up on the tension as you go down. And there's some whip makers that don't even use binding. I
Right.
think I don't think Torrance
You're
Fisher doesn't even use binding, and his whips are great. They roll out great. They have a strong transition. So I guess
right.
everybody can achieve a good rollout, not just from binding. Binding's not the only way to do it. Obviously, it's been shown. I don't think Adam Winrich uses binding really either.
Just a
Maybe
little
a
bit
little
on
bit coming off the
the
handles, but
video. Right.
yeah,
But he also likes
that,
a softer transition,
that is true.
which
That's
is
a very good
which is
point.
very different.
Yeah.
He still shows his stock root whips, I think, or roots, stock whip roots. Is that what? Is that? But he likes that softer transition
Yeah,
regardless,
yeah,
and to do those sort
yeah.
of things. And I've made a couple of videos a couple of whips based off of those videos that you made with him. And yeah,
Oh,
it's a lot of fun, but it does feel very different.
it does.
Um,
Yeah,
I know Keith Smith, he and I have talked that he really likes that stiff transition, especially for the target work.
yeah,
And and Evan mentioned that was one of the things that when someone says they're doing targeting, that he wants to make sure is that the transition is a little stiffer,
yeah.
goes out a little farther.
I would definitely have to agree with them on that. I think if I'm doing more of a routine, I kind of tend to err on a type of whip that Adam likes, just more
Mm-hmm.
flexibility. I think it helps those loops form because you're doing one crack and then you're changing direction so much, where a target whip is you're basically up and down or back and forward. You're just looking for a stiff
Right.
spring that rolls out. So I guess that can kind of, for me personally, depends on the application of what I'm using that whip for.
Do you
So
recommend to customers that come to you and say they want something for a particular application to choose, or do you just say what do you want it for, and then you make it
yeah,
based on that, or how much do
pretty
you change?
much.
I guess is the
Yeah, first I just kind of ask, is this the first time you've ever gotten a whip? Is this your first whip, and what are you looking to do with it? And from there, I can kind of make those uh, assumptions of what they need. I'll discuss different tensions in the transition and what have you, but just kind of getting a general idea of what they're doing with the whip is what ultimately helps me
hmm
decide how I'm going to build it. Yeah.
what what is your response? I had this from a customer, so it's not just a trick question. What is your response when they say, "I don't know, this is my first whip. I just want it to be easy to crack"?
tiny cracker,
I,
tapered twist. Yeah, yeah.
I,
Oh man.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, easy to crack. I mean, that means what? Okay, well, you practice for 20 hours and then call me back and let me know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of it. It depends. Yeah, easy to crack is a very broad term for a whip. You can make it
Yeah,
easier to
exactly.
crack by having a thinner cracker, but it's going to produce a higher pitched crack. You can make the end of it very thin. That can sometimes
Hmm.
compromise uh, the strength of the end of the whip. So I mean, yeah, that is a very tricky question. Uh, I'd like to think that the whips I make already do crack pretty easily, but I guess there are still ways to even go further and um, make it crack even more easily with some trade-offs here and there.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
I made a whip for a lady that does Catwoman cosplay,
Oh,
and she's uh she's beautiful. She does all these cool things, and she has occasionally at the convention she'll want to do just a single cattleman's just to scare people around her, I guess. Um, but the one she had before was all coming apart and unraveling. It was a very cheap whip. I don't know where she
mhm.
got it, but I made her one, and I made it a little bit looser because she coils it up. That's how I've seen her
Right.
using it for her cosplay, and I didn't want her breaking the transition.
Sure.
But on the other hand, she doesn't crack the whip very often, and I went back and forth a lot of times trying to figure out how should I make this? I can make it different ways.
Mhm.
Um, what would you have done?
Yeah, I think you made a good move of keeping it, a little bit looser at the transition because it sounds like she carries it around a lot. And then if it was a stiff transition, it'd be kind of bulky. And so I probably would have done something very similar. I don't know if I would have done uh, too much to the internals of it besides making it a little bit lighter
Mhm.
of a transition, but I'm not sure. Maybe what you would have done. I'm not sure.
I basically did like Adam's design
Yeah,
that from your video. So with a single
yeah,
belly, it's a little bit softer. Still had
yeah,
some obviously some life to
yeah.
it,
Sure.
but
I think that was a good move, a good
well,
build for
thanks.
that application.
Yeah, it's always interesting, and I've got some friends of mine who aren't whip crackers, but I drag them out into the yard whenever they come over, and force them to be
Yeah,
whip crackers.
that's
There's no whip
what
crackers
it's
in
all
town, but I'll
about,
make
man.
some. Damn it!
Right.
So
Exactly.
I have an 8 foot Indy a kangaroo one I made up there, and let me grab it actually,
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Is that the one in the middle there?
but it's really heavy.
Oh wow.
It's got the steel spike. I made it off Blake Bruning's design,
Oh,
and
that's beautiful, Chris.
he well, thank you, but it weighs as much as any two of those other ones up there easily.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just
And
kind of the nature of an indie style whip, though. Like that's how it is. I have an early Paul Nolan on the wall over there from
oh,
like
well, that's
late '90s or
beautiful.
something that I have. I'll grab it real quick. If you want to take a look
Yeah,
at it?
absolutely.
It's the one whip I had on my wall. Here it is.
You have a
But it's
wall of whips too.
yeah. But yeah, this is it. Um,
Oh, that's
but it's
beautiful.
but it's definitely got that heft that you're describing with yours. I think it's just kind of the nature of that style of whip. So
Sure. So
yeah.
with my friends, when they come over, this is what they want to crack. Like they can throw it out there, and if they can get a coil to the end of the whip, it will crack, and it will crack really loud. So I was thinking about I can make them a gift, I can just do a cheap performance hybrid or something. I can pull that out quick, but I don't know how much that would actually be what they would want versus want something really heavy. So
Right.
I'm always trying to decide,
Yeah.
I guess, as a whip maker, how
Yeah.
to answer those questions. So
And that first whip that you crack, you always kind of have that in the back of your mind, I feel. That's kind of
yeah,
the precedent that's set from that point on. When you crack a whip, you always kind of think about the feel of that first one and kind of uh, uh, compare all of the next whips that you crack to that first one. So that's a good point, though.
It's amazing how many people, speaking of first whips, have commented on your YouTube videos that they wanted to crack a whip,
Hmm.
so they made one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
congratulations, thank you. That is really cool that you're bringing so many, once again, so many
Oh,
new
thank
people
you.
into the community. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah,
But
it's been great. It's unexpected. I This is my. You want to see? This is my first whip here,
oh
Chris.
yeah, you have it? You have it
I
handy?
have
Let me
it.
see. Oh
So
my
from
God.
2011, I just had this idea that I wanted to photograph the end of a whip breaking the speed of sound.
Right.
So the drumstick, duct tape, and twine. This is we have an extra firm
I
transition here.
see that.
Yeah, but this is something I just kind of kept around because it was just kind of told the story of like, wow, I got into whips one day and here I am, 9 years later. So
Yeah.
it's been an
Hang on to that. That's
adventure.
that's really
I
cool.
will.
I love it. Uh,
Thank you.
so you've got, um, I mean, not only with the whip making and the YouTube with that, you've got another YouTube channel too.
I do.
That I mean, you are multi-talented. I mean, we can see from behind
Well,
you, you're
thank you.
multi-talented. You've got all kinds of, not just
I
whips,
got
but
some
airplanes and
airplanes, man.
things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're a pilot, you're a photographer, you're a storm chaser, all these are amazing things. And how can we find this other YouTube channel?
If you go on YouTube and just type in Nick Schrader, all one word, the second channel will come up. I've been trying to think of
Okay.
something more creative to name it, but yeah, if you just type in youtube.com/Nick Schrader, no spaces, that's how you can find that channel. And it's just documentaries, nature, just stuff that I love, science, short films, just kind of what I like to do other than making whips. So, and you'll see some whip related stuff here and there on the channel. But it's
Okay.
just a place to experiment and explore different things in life that I love, I guess.
And I mean, really, some of those videos are just beautiful. I've showed my
Thank you.
kids a number of them, especially your storm chasing ones. They did
Oh,
a lightning and storm segment
oh, cool.
recently. We should have called you and had you talk about storm chasing for them. That would have been really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Alyssa Iris says you are an unexpectedly excellent guitarist
Well,
as
thank
well.
you.
What don't you do, Nick?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've been actually getting back into it. I took a few years where I just kind of lost interest in it. And recently, I've been listening to a new album by the band The Midnight. They're an LA
Hmm.
band, and they have a new record, and one of those songs just has this amazing guitar part played by a girl named Maddie Rice. And I heard that, and I was like, man, I got to get back into guitar. So I'm in the process of kind of learning that solo.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the kind
Yeah.
words on that. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've heard your intros and stuff, and they're beautiful. So
Thank you,
yeah,
Chris.
keep at it for sure.
I will, man. Thank you.
I've tried it a little bit here and there, and it's take more practice than whips do to be good at
Yeah,
guitar.
yeah. But it's interesting
So
though, because I was thinking about music the other day, and this might sound, I might come off sounding wrong to say this, but as much as I love whip cracking, I don't really know if I love it enough to put the commitment in as far as two-handed whip cracking, like behind the head, the four corners, and all the stuff with two whips. Like, it's impressive, but I just don't think I personally love that particular
hmm.
aspect of whips enough to commit myself. Guitar is a little different. I feel like I will go that extra step. Maybe it's just because I've been doing it longer.
Sure.
Um, but yeah,
Which
so
interestingly
maybe
enough is a two-handed
true.
instrument. So
Yeah, I have no excuse. Yeah,
yeah, we've
yeah,
talked a lot about independence with different whip crackers, actually, Justin and Danny specifically, and how getting used to doing two different things with your
yeah,
hands.
yeah.
And guitar is a really awesome example of that, actually.
Hmm.
Um, I, I was talking about how my wife is a piano player, and you read two lines of music at the same time
Yeah.
playing with both hands,
Oh yeah.
which I'm like,
Yeah.
my mind just
I
gets tied in
know.
a knot when I see what she's doing.
I know.
But the guitar is very similar. And I mean, do you have any tricks or tips for, I don't even call it guitar playing, but either way, like how are you building that independence, either for whip cracking or for that, or you just don't care on whip cracking for two-handed, focusing on the
Yeah,
one-handed
well,
independent
I
guitar
mean,
hand.
yeah, for guitar, I've always been more of I guess a lead player. So like there's a few things I'll do here and there that have rhythm and lead, like finger picking or something like that. But
Sure.
only, and I'm not like I don't feel like I have any extra skill in that. Like that's something playing guitar is something I've been doing for I think it's almost 15 years now, kind of on and
Wow.
off. But it's just the repetition, man. Like I feel like anybody can get to a point that's like that they're happy with, or I mean you're always progressing and trying to do better and better, but really to develop that skill in a certain thing, guitar, piano, I think it's just repetition. I think it's just practicing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not fun, you know, and then you got to take a break and just and think about it and come back to it. But it's just the time put in. The time put in is, I think, the number one thing. And you got to be happy too when you're doing it. That's why when you get frustrated, take a break, because you're not really going to make it any further if you're sitting there
Sure.
mad, you know, plucking the strings. And I suppose the same principle can be true with double-handed whip cracking.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, I was down at Blake Bruning's place, Trinity Whips, and he was
Hmm.
showing me some double-handed whip cracking things. And Blake has been he's taught me a lot of things with leather whips, and he's been real generous in teaching me some things that I still need to sit down and start practicing on. But he was showing me some different things, and it started to click. And like there's like a very fine line almost between not knowing something and then you just kind of sent over the edge. It's like something like a boundary in your mind has been kind of broken, if that makes sense. And then you feel more free,
Absolutely.
and then you can, and there's like these steps that you can kind of take. So that happened to me, and I think that was between that time with Blake doing the double whip cracking, and then last year I took Adam Winrich's his
Queen City
class.
crossover.
Yeah, the Queen, and that like I felt like I was finally starting to get somewhere. So that kind of it
Okay.
kind of inspired me, and those are the two times that I had two whips in my hand. I was like, maybe I can do this, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
absolutely.
tough.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, we all have things we're striving toward to be better at. I mean, what on the whip making side though? What are you trying to get better at? Is there anything
yeah,
you're?
that's a good question. So one of the things I'm trying to get better is the where the BB loaded core ends. I use sinker cord. And where
Mhm.
the BB stop and the rest of the whip begins, it's gotten to the point where if you look at it, you know, it looks smooth, but it's just not as smooth as I'd like it to be. So that's why recently I purchased these guys. I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera.
Okay.
These are a bunch of different
Is it
sized
shot?
ball bearings. So
Ball bearings.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So my idea is maybe I can kind of stagger
So different
those, and they're in increments of
sizes.
yeah. So because you know, .17 caliber, 4.5 millimeters is the size of the BBs that I use for the whole core, and I just feel like
Yeah.
I could do better. I'm at the point where I'm like, I want to be a little more precise coming off of that BB loaded core where the rest of the whip starts. So that's kind of something I've been working on, Chris. I'll probably do a video about this.
That could be
Um,
cool.
yeah.
I
So
tried something recently. I saw Adam was making some juggling whips using ball chain,
yeah,
like for pulling on the lights
sure.
or whatever, and he used multiple strands of that of different lengths. And I've made I don't know 3 or 4 whips with that, and it flows. It's very heavy,
Mhm.
but
Right.
it definitely has a very interesting flow to it. I don't know if you've had the chance to play with that much, but it might be something to give it a try. Instead of one strand of BBs, maybe multiple strands of different lengths of BBs or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and funny enough, the very first whip that I ever platted was from Instructables.com. It was a user by the name of CH5. I think he's in the UK, and
yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen that particular
I I
forum,
have
but
before I found your very first tutorial. I'm pretty sure that's the one I was
yeah,
following.
because that's actually the one I used for my very first. This is the first platting I've ever done in my life, and that had that
Video
construction
froze.
that
Hang
you're.
on.
Oh, we
I wanted to see it.
hold on.
It's not showing. I can hear your audio is fine. It's just the
I'm
video
frozen.
froze for a second. Oh, there it
Okay.
is. Nice.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that
So
looks
yeah,
good from
and
here.
it's got its but the
That's
reason I brought this up was because
yeah. But yeah.
yeah, this construction has what you just talked about, those three, I think it was three or four different sections of BBs. So
Okay.
of the lamp, I'm sorry, not BBs, lamp chain.
Lamp chain.
This
Yeah.
has the lamp chain in it. So that was the first time um, that I did that. But yeah, lamp chain is something that's it's pretty good actually, as I understand, for juggling whips because it has that weight you need to get the thing flipping. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. It have to have a odd. To me, it feels odd balance because it's so evenly balanced. I'm used to most of the weight being in the thong of a whip, and in this
yeah,
case, it's spins. The ones that I made were 3 foot thongs, plus a fall.
yeah,
But yeah, and they spun almost exactly in the middle when I threw them up in the air.
yeah. That's
The customer was very happy with
perfect.
them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I ended up doing was using the ball chain for that. But it felt really strange to volley them and stuff.
Did it?
So
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, I don't
not bad, just different.
different, sure. Yeah. Yeah, the whip juggling is something that I just can't even comprehend. Like you see Aaron
Do you do
Bonk
any
and
other juggling?
no, I used to be obsessed with it when I was little. Like I wanted to learn how to juggle, but I
Mm.
never did learn. Uh maybe I'll finally teach myself or something,
I bought
but
some
it's just
beanbags. I'm trying to get into it.
yeah, yeah. I used to think that using like tissue paper for like wrapping paper for a gift, that tissue paper that you get in there would somehow help because it was slower, but no, because it's as soon as you let it go, it just stops moving because of the wind resistance and stuff. So I think
Oh no,
beanbags are
I've
much
never tried
better.
that.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well. Yeah,
I
don't waste your
tried
time.
racquetballs first, but I spent more time running around the house chasing them. So beanbags are definitely the way to go.
Right, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
are there any other skills that you feel like are related that you just like to spend your time with? It's interesting to see how our hobbies all overlap.
Yeah, that's something that um, I think just making stuff with my hands. I've always been somebody who I just like to build stuff, whether it
Hmm.
be like modeling clay or building Legos with my brother when we were younger. I
Sure.
like building stuff with my hands. I find a lot of satisfaction in just creating things. So I guess, yeah, yeah,
I guess the photography goes into that too. I mean, it's another
yeah,
artistic expression, certainly.
sure, sure. I like seeing
Do you
things come
do
together.
like sketching or painting or anything more traditional artistic?
A little bit. In high school, I was in art class and I did a little bit of oil painting and some sketching here and there. So yeah, a little bit. Nothing, fantastic. It's pretty average, but it was. I find it working on art whips, but there's something about drawing something freehand where your mind just goes somewhere, and you're able to just think about things, work through things in your mind. It
Sure.
just kind of it's very calming, and whip making I would think is the same. I guess maybe I've just been doing it. It's a job now, so I don't really feel the same way about it.
Hmm.
But yeah, just doing things with my hands is very
Do you? What about the fancy plaiting, the designing side of it? Do you feel creative there, or is it still just
um
we'll make some boxes and stuff?
I'm still kind of on the I'm just gonna make some boxes phase really. Honestly, if I have an idea for for a whip handle, I'll go straight to faceplat and I'll just start kind of clicking those little dots around and seeing what looks good. I never have a picture in my head and go, draw it out with faceplat
Hmm.
or on graph paper. It's always just kind of I'm gonna go here and just start messing around, seeing what looks good. So, and fancy
I was
plaiting is
talking
something
to
that
Evan. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry.
oh, you're fine. Fancy plaiting is still something that I'm very new in. It's if it weren't for faceplat, I'd be in a different place. So that's really what's fueled most of my ability to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the fancy plaiting I've done has been exclusively through that as well. I always end up having things on different layers.
Yeah,
Different. When I get to the back, it's one square down or something. When I try to do it in my
yeah.
head.
You miss
Um.
one in the middle of the handle, you're like,
Exactly.
no. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
still there, man. That happens to me all the time.
we have a question from Keith here. He says, Nick, a lot of people who are into whips are also into martial arts. Do you have a background in that at all?
I do not. And interestingly enough, a martial arts instructor just ordered a few whips from me at the end of last year. I don't have any experience in martial arts. Besides, Blake Bruning is
Hmm.
heavily into it, so he kind of taught me a few things. But besides that, like I always thought it was cool. I have no. I never took karate or anything like that. Although I always did find it
Hmm.
interesting.
What'd you find interesting about it?
For one, it's cool to be able to defend yourself without any weapons. I think that's something that's very helpful, just to protect yourself. And of course, seeing movies where people are doing all this karate, it's cool. It looks
It
awesome, right? So
does.
that's a part of it too. But
Well, that
yeah, just planning each move and knowing where the other guy's going to go, predicting it. Just I think that's a neat skill to have.
Alyssa Myris just said, crosses fight Nick Schrader off the bucket list. No fighting Nick. This is to bring the community together. That's what we're doing.
I would lose in karate.
Yeah, me too. I I'm allergic to being punched in the
Yeah.
face. It hurts. So, um, let's see. There was something else. Oh, on back on the whip making. Have you messed with, other than feeding the fall inside of
Uh-huh.
itself, additional tapered fall styles?
No. I think I did like a twisted fall once. I
Hmm.
think. Did I? I don't know. Um, Not really. No, I did. I tried loading a fall with lamp chain once because I think Bobby Holyoke. I think she's the one of Holyoke whips. I saw in one of her videos she loaded the fall with actual lamp chain on one of the longer whips, and I thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. So I think I tried that, but nothing really other than yeah, feeding it inside of itself
Hmm.
and the brief moment with the lamp chain. I don't think I have, but I wanna expand a little bit and try new things. So that's something that I might look into for the
I
future. Yeah.
I don't know if you've talked to Torrance Fisher about it much. He stopped by here actually before he went to see you. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
and we made that whip
Oh,
together
cool. Yeah.
up there, that yellow and red one.
We made a stock whip together also. Yeah. I think it was the same model as that one. That
Probably
was
so.
cool. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he showed me about a twisted fall that he uses. So at the first of the twist, it's got two strands inside of itself. So it's a mass of four,
Okay.
and it's not it's off by a little bit where it's fed inside of itself.
Yeah.
So it's a mass of four to a mass of three when it's only one side is inside of itself,
Hmm.
and then it's just the two, so a mass of two down to the one where so it's a 4 3 2
Oh, yeah.
1. So you could go from a
Yeah.
traditional 4 point fall hitch
Hmm.
mass to a fall of a four strand mass and actually taper
Yeah.
it down to one more evenly,
That's really
which was
good
a fun
idea.
idea.
Yeah. 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 I'm gonna have to try that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, full credit to Tori. He was showing us how to do that, and it's not easy. Actually, I've got a couple here.
Yeah. I'd love to see
It's
them.
not easy. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Actually, this one, this is off my hook of falls I've
Oh,
got here,
yeah.
is so this is one actually that he made when he was here. So it's using two colors. So it's fed inside
Okay.
itself, as you can see. It's more
Yeah.
obvious when there's two colors. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's fed inside itself, and it changes. So that's four for that much, and then it's three, and then just right there. So it's got a twist with three, and then to there and three.
That is really
Whoops, didn't
cool.
go down, and then just one down to the end.
So when you say four to begin with, you're talking two fed inside of each other, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
So
really cool. Yeah.
each side is like the falls that you make, each half,
Okay, I see.
and then when you twist it together, it's a massive four gutted strands of
Yeah.
paracord.
Man, I'm gonna have to try that. I think I cracked one of Tori's whips last year. It was like a 10-foot black whip. I think it had a fall on it just like that, but I remember it really
I know he does,
distributing the weight down again.
and I'm planning to talk to him as well, and I can ask him more about it. I know he doesn't use it on all of his whips,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure what his criteria is for when to use them or not. But just to have another bag, another tool in your bag of tricks, it's nice to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like this wick is a little bit light. I wish I had a little more weight out in the end of it. Sometimes this will help.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
can definitely
doing
see that.
a twist on the end, then going back to this does not work great because you're kind of
Really?
going down and
Okay.
then back up and then back down.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I recently, one of my customers requested that I end a three belly whip, which is already really heavy, with a tapered twist. And I never did that before.
Did the end blow up?
Um, but man, it didn't. It cracked so easily. I was very impressed by it. And
Okay.
that was something I'd never done before.
Wow.
So, but it's not as durable, of course.
Sure.
But if you're just cracking it over grass and making sure,
Mm.
being conscious of it, it was a surprise. Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, I've got a customer that he's actually we're working on an order for him right now. He wants 3 more, but he does.
Awesome.
He's a farmer. He's a farmer. He's got cows. He chases them around. He likes to crack his whip.
Yeah.
So it's really honored to make a whip for actual cowboys, right? For
Yeah.
modern
Oh,
day.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always fun, not just the performance thing. But yet he's getting into all the different fancy cracks on top of it.
That's
So
cool.
he just beats the
Mhm.
daylights out of it. And I'm debating whether or not to make the next one for him with a 4-point fall hitch instead of a tapered twist.
Right. Yeah.
Um, because I mean that's what he wanted, but I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe this would last you a little longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It only
Maybe
lasts him about
one,
1 year.
maybe one for working the cattle and the other one strictly for sport cracking or something like that. Maybe.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, I've had you on for what, an hour now or so.
Has it really been? Wow. Oh
It's
man.
almost, let's see, it's almost 6 Central here. But
Oh,
if anyone else has any questions, or I mean, I'm not running you off. I'll sit here and hang out all evening if you want. But um, I
well, this
do
has
want to
been
be
great,
respectful
man.
of your time. Yeah, thank you so much for chatting and for all that you do to bring the community together, both with your videos and with
Yeah.
doing things like this.
Thank you so
And
much for having me, Chris. It's just been wonderful. And like I said, I just think this is what the WHIP community needs during this time of lockdowns and just kind of isolation, not being able to hang out in person. So it's really cool what you're doing for the community, man. So this is awesome.
it's my honor. And thank you again for joining us. You have a good evening, and I'll see you online.
You too, my friend. Take care.